Welcome once again to Feature Please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
Why, no, I didn't know that we were buying guns from our sworn enemies in an attempt to destabilize us and make us ripe for reconquering. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Well, it is the place of all Nixons, both space and not space, to deny the crimes they're committing, particularly if it involves, political manipulation, don't you think?
Little light treason, yeah.
Now, I have a question for you, sir.
Yes.
Was the episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine that we watched this week also worth your time?
Would you be, by chance, referring to Season 2, Episode 3, The Siege?
I would, sir. Who directed it?
October 10th, 1993. Written by Michael Piller. Directed by Rick Colby. Arc 3 of 3, Bajoran Coup d'etat. I thought this fucking thing was dope. What a way to start off Season 2. I'm really trying to twist my wife's arm into watching this Deep Space Nine. Season 1 was good and at times really good. Was there anything that you really call great out of Season 1?
For last two episodes were great. Duet and In the Hands of the Prophets.
Season 1 is great in the fact that it's not bad. And for
season
it's above
1 of expectations, yeah.
It's not above expectations. I mean, it far exceeds expectations. Season 1 of Trek is always fucking shitty. And that was a solid, good Season 1. But more importantly, it was not a bad Season 1. I'll agree, Duet was fucking great. And I think it was better than the season finale. But overall, it was strong. And if, we were to kind of give it the Enterprise treatment where it's like, what Enterprise got really good starting Season 3 and then Season 4.
Right.
And, what do you got to watch through Season 1 and Season 2? So you're not missing important stuff or really good stuff before starting with the final episode of Season 2 where Earth gets attacked. I don't know if you can make a concise list of like the must watches of Season 1 because there's just good stuff all over the place. And especially to Kira Nerese's character, they hit a lot of important notes along the way.
I would say that you're better off maybe just saying, here's the Season 1 episodes that you can just skip because they add nothing or are bad. But even then, if I look
at the 2 or 3,
the 20 episodes of Season 1, which ones of these would I actively suggest someone skip over? Aside from my bottom 3, of course, that I listed during the rip, I would probably add to that. If wishes were horses, like,
I just listened to our episode for If Wishes Were Horrors, and it's a funny episode because there was like a lot of good in that episode, and there was just a lot of fucking stupid trash.
Yeah, but the stupid trash is enough where it's like you can kind of just ignore this whole thing.
Sure.
But yeah, like think about episodes like Past Prologue, A Man Alone. I'd probably cut Babel. Babel sucked. Captive Pursuit, Q-less. Yeah, I'd say, watch all those because there's a lot of flavor that comes through, especially something like Q-less, which I think we ended up quite warm on overall. Like you and I were like, that's probably top side of the season for sure.
Did I give Q-less one of my 3 slots? I think I did.
You might have, just because you didn't want to have picked the same 3 I did. Yeah. Like first one, last 2. Yeah. But it gives you a lot of flavor. It tells you a lot about the DS9 crew, about their relative position in the Federation through Q's just unguarded lack of restraint in dealing with them.
Mm-hmm. Blatant disrespect.
The way Sisko responds to that, like, is it great? Not in my opinion, but it's still worth watching.
But you get into Season 2, and they're just coming out of the gate fucking going hard.
Oh,
there is no hold bars. I don't know what the meetings were between Season 1 and Season 2, but someone was just like, fuck it. we are going to. There is a novel out there about the Ballad of Deep Space Nine, and we are just going to make that word for word. Except there is no novel. It's just complete disregard for the audience. And it's either you are with us or you are against us. And we will not play any sort of in between. You're either going to fully commit and be rewarded greatly, or we don't care. Fuck you.
This show strikes me as a product of creative arrogance, but in a good way.
Oh, yes. I like that.
Okay. So you could also say maybe Nana Vistor just shared her recipe for all those I Get It cookies, just to make sure everyone had to eat them. But yes, this show is a product of creative arrogance, because imagine the kind of big dick confidence that you would have to say, all right, we're going to start our serialized season 2 with a multi-part, delicately layered, textured coup d'etat plotline where a bunch of pseudo-religious fanatics are going to try and seize control of their destiny away from from foreign powers. But we're gonna wind up making those the bad guys. Also, the guy from Frost Nixon is going to be in this for no particular reason, except his kids like it.
There's going to be politics. There's going to be gunfights. There's going to be dog fights. There's going to be
religious impersonation. There's going to be a romantic subplot.
Yeah, there's going to be domestic disputes. There's going to be anti-capitalistic undertones. It's going to have everything. If there is something you can get away with this creative arrogance, Star Trek is certainly it. Star Trek at the height of its power. This is going on in 93, so this is season 7 of TNG, yeah?
Correct.
So this is as good as it's ever going to get for the world of Star Trek in terms of viewership buy-in.
It sure is.
You're going to say, we are going to run the most difficult D&D campaign where everybody is going to have their book open at all times and be really good at math. This is the time to capitalize on this. And maybe some people are going to fall between the cracks, and we're going to give them a consolation prize in 3 years. It's going to be called Voyager. It's going to mostly suck.
Right. We'll give you Fisher Price for baby's first Star Trek again.
The dummies will love it. And sometimes the hardcore people will love it too. Every now and then we'll let a great episode slip through. But we believe that again, there's no universal time on this. Maybe it's 9:00 on a Friday here. Maybe it's
right. No idea when this is going to get shown and what order it's going to get shown. Like, a lot of the marketing on this was in-house guerrilla shit that would just play as trailers on the UHF channels that bought the fucking thing. That's it. That's all they got to go on.
But we trust that our Star Trek audience is going to be dedicated enough to know exactly when this fucking thing is on. Maybe they can conduct the wizardry required to get a VCR to record something at a predestined time. Who knows? But these guys will find a way in this world of pre-internet, pre-TiVo. And they will be able to follow along and be rewarded. And hopefully this thing will snowball and we'll just hook people and whatever. I'd really like for you to start bringing some viewership numbers into perspectives on these rips, because
I'll try to see what I can find about what was how widely watched was DS9 Contemporaneous, and what the story is of how it caught fire after, I think, with a larger audience.
Which is why.
That is absolutely its story. Like, I know it had its viewers. I do not believe that it was ever very high relative to TNG, but the sales were strong enough for it that it didn't matter how many people were actually watching it at any given time. But
again, physical media sales. And I don't know if
I'm talking about, actually, when I say sales in this case, I want to clarify. I mean sales to networks. That is what kept the show alive.
And I'm talking about the back end.
Yeah.
Which is something that I don't know.
Unlimited money that they've made off of this, by the way, because they owe them nothing on streaming.
Go back to every other episode that we have, which we always seem to get roped back into this discussion about why DVD sales were important back then.
Yeah.
And we really hone in on that when we did the
Battlestar
Galactica Razor. Yep. But this, I have to think, reaped the benefit as well of anthology sets, seasonal releases of, and even VHS, right? It's not like all started specifically with DVDs.
When I got into Star Trek after watching Star Trek 4, I was renting VHSs from Hollywood Video to watch with my dad, because my dad had seen it all. So he could,
as far as I know,
through the TOS era like that, and that's what we did.
In my ignorance, I mean, Star Trek may have pioneered the art of spine art, putting stuff together in the correct order and getting like a cool picture of.
Oh yeah,
Deep Space Nine or the Enterprise flying or whatever. At work, we get a lot of libraries getting rid of their old physical media, a lot of VHS, and just some really cool cover art from these old VHS tapes. Back to that Star Trek Voyage Home, by the way. Out of our audience that is willing to engage with us on Discord or on Facebook or on the YouTube comments sections.
Oh, did we finally read the YouTube comments? Peter, is now finally the time when it's all against me for the first time?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, it's like it called to you. Like, you have never read those YouTube comments. I alone am the one keeping track of
stupid enough to
regular commenters. I'm giving them the like, I'm giving them the heart, I'm reading them. Sometimes I respond to them. I always read them, by the way, if you guys are out there still, like every time. I love it. And you're like, yeah, that's great. I'm really happy for, and you just never read it. Now is the time you read it, because you were like, maybe I'll be vindicated.
Come look at this negative shit that's fully supporting everything I said.
Fucking YouTube comments betrayed me so hard on that.
Everything
I was so hoping that wouldn't happen. I was going to throw it in your fucking face. I was looking so forward to it. And as shit, every one of them, and they all commented too. There's like 5 of them. All of them commented to say I was wrong. I'm like, really, guys? I've been with you the whole time on this. Now you betray me?
Nobody
bullshit.
Listening to a podcast about Star Trek from 2 nobodies is going to be out of that casual fun romp crowd of like, oh, whatever. Like, we're dealing with hardcore nerds that like a little bit of poop and fart humor. All right. So the deck is stacked against you. I think if you were to go do
the normie, is that it?
If we were going to go get the filthy casuals on the street, I'm sure you'd have a lot more support. But
oh man,
of the neckbeer crowd, which apparently, I haven't really seen any of the ladies chime in on that. Although I'm sure they would say that you're wrong too in that Voyage Home song.
Ladies, bail me out. Prove me wrong. Mm-hmm. No, don't prove me wrong. Prove Peter wrong. I need help.
You know the truth. I'm sorry, what we were talking about before I was taking my victory lap.
This episode of DS9, which we have not yet described a single actual event in with yet here at 35 minutes.
I loved it. I don't know what there's really to say was wrong with this episode specifically. They crammed so much in that I don't even feel appropriate going blow by blow on this. Everybody gets their chance in the spotlight. Everybody looks great. The shit with Kira and Dax pulling that starfighter out of mothballs. It's not rare in Star Trek for them to have to get the shuttle to work and fly off the surface.
But it was done differently. Very differently.
Is so visceral and feels so convincing. And the chemistry between Dax and Nerys really bleeds through in this cheeky, fun way.
Yes. This is their relationship for the rest of the show. Is they're like fun friends together, even when they're on missions.
Fun friend. We're gonna die. Oh, girl, I love you.
Yes. Very unlike anything you had in Voyager, despite there being really more of a focus on that.
You know why? Because fucking Garrett Wang's not in this thing. That would have been Paris and Kim normally.
Yeah.
And the girl buddy combo on this is just way more powerful. Even past their acting, like I don't know how to describe what the cinematography looks like. And it's crazy too, because it's fucking Rick Colby, right? Like, he is all over Voyager, and there was nothing that came together in the practical sensation effect way of like them bouncing around in the cockpit. It felt very TV cinema. It felt very like sci-fi original, but like in a great way of like, it looks like they put some real money into this little dinky starfighter thing.
Oh, that's the number one note, by the way, on the Memory Alpha. This episode cost him a lot of fucking money. So you picked up on that straight away.
I see it, and it was well invested, because whereas normally, like, here's a tired old set piece, or here's some shit they just put together 2 days ago, that entire sequence, again, it felt very low budget cinema, and I loved it.
I think that I like that scene. I like it because it is the first time they feel like they have really gelled the Kira Dax relationship. Like, that scene is where they're like, this is it, ladies, this is it right here. This is what you two should be doing.
This is what you two should be doing. And more importantly, Dax, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah. Dax, we have decided you're kind of a impish, disregard the rules, devil may care, some always kind of trying to bring sex into it, but in a kind of endearing way. That's you. That's your character.
Those are qualities you have, and at your core, you are a walking seance who is able to contact the dead at will. You basically exist outside of time, and your disregard for the rules comes from the fact that you have done this many, many lifetimes over. You have a long and storied history with Starfleet and with technology and this other stuff, and you know what the line to walk is with how much shit you can get away with before it really becomes an issue, and you are just disconnected in the most fun way possible.
Right.
And you're the Swiss Army knife of like, we need someone who knows about fucking vacuum tubes and microwaves.
Sub-impulse fighter, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I know all about that. Tobin, I think his name was.
Correct.
What was the quote on that?
Not much of a sex life, but a hell of an engineer.
Barely a sex life and no imagination. And I liked the idea that she thanked this guy. Like, it kind of a throw, like, oh, gee, thanks about this. But, like, that was a whole fucking lifetime that is in there. And I think it's really cool that she is, like, paying respect to this guy who just basically saved the fucking day, right?
Of course.
I almost feel like there's a Protoss quality to her now, and I love it. Another big thing that jumps out of this, and it comes with money, is so many extras.
Oh, yeah. This is a packed house, and we're revisiting things from all of these episodes, right? Not only do we have Lee Nallis and Space Nixon, we've also got the general we met last week is going to be making an appearance. He's going to sort of serve as the antagonist for the crew on the station, but in a very reasonable way, who is played by the guy who was a runner-up for being Picard back in the day. We're going to have his subordinate show back up.
Single-serving bad guy.
Single-serving bad guy. He's going to have a whole bunch of dudes with him. The Federation is going to have all their dudes out. We're going to have an intro scene where we just got apparently every guy with colored shoulder pads who works on DS9 came up to Ops and is like hearing a speech from Sisko about how they all got to rally up and fight a little, do a little insurgency here on the space station for a while with our phasers set on tickle and hope for the best.
So Sisko's like, hey, here's the deal. I've got this funny little plan where instead of just evacuating people over the course of 3 hours, which is what I'm supposed to do, I am going to interpret it that I need to scrape all of the Federation cum out of Quark's cyber fuck dens. I need to get all the Federation fingernails out of the trash. I need to get all the Federation quarters out of the pop machines. I got to get all the Federation paper clips that might have fallen between the desks it's school, and it's going to take us a while. Hey, a lot of you got families. I'm going to start by saying, hey, here's your connection to Bajor. Here's her connection to Bajor. Oh my God, Bajor is so important. The future of Bajor is in our hands.
Who wants to leave? Who wants to be a coward?
In front of everybody. It's not even like, hey, I'm going to go up in my office and I'm going to come back and we'll have, like, Janeway at least gave people when they're on the 37th planet, like,
yeah, take a day, think about it. You can just come down
this might be the closest we ever get to Earth. And I don't know if you guys saw that city. It was fucking amazing. It was so good. It
was incredible.
It was probably the best thing I ever saw up until this unification thing with Kirk. Like, that was just great CGI future storytelling.
The city from the 37s is the greatest city we've ever seen.
If I was to say, like, if I was to quantify how good that city looked in the 37s, it looked as good as Archer's speech sounded.
Oh, well, the real ones will know. And that's
perfect.
That's
perfect. It's just perfect. And hey, if you want to stay here, because God only knows who's going to get eaten by a fucking sandworm because of Neelix's shenanigans down the road. And that's how Janeway handled it, was go think about it, and at 4:00 be back in the cargo bay if you're sticking around or whatever. Sisko's just like, I'm going to look at everybody right now who wants to leave. I will not hold it against you. I, Death Row Sisko, will not hold your cowardice against you and take it out on your family and deny them entry onto a runabout. And everybody sticks around. You say there's a lot of people there. There's less than 20, I would say. Is that really supposed to be how many Starfleet people are actually on the station?
At this time, yes. That number will grow as time goes on, quite explicitly on screen. But right now, it's basically like the troops that are on the DMZ between North Korea and South Korea. They're there to be a tripwire, to say, hey, Cardassia, don't come over here and try and take this over again. Because if you do, you'll create an international incident that will cause the Federation to respond, because we also are here at their invitation.
Equally important in terms of season 1. Here's enough people to teach these former terrorists how to keep this thing from blowing up.
Right. It's a perfect idea on the part of Bajor to invite the Federation, but to keep them on the space station. Right. I don't want you here. I don't want you occupying. We've had enough of that, but I do need you around. And so we'll put you on this asset we don't know how to really maintain otherwise. You'll run it for us, and you will serve as our blocking tackle to prevent the big bad Cardassians from just swooping back in if they feel like it.
Yeah, they can't use AoEs because it'll hit you guys, and then they'll be flagged for PvP, and you can just fucking...
Yeah, we're level 60 bosses, and they're level 2 crooks, and that'll be the end of that.
So everybody's like, yeah, we're all going to stick around, and then cut to the promenade where, when I'm saying extras, like, this is where, like, there's like 100 people being ushered around. And I forget what we said. There's like 700 people on the space station at this point, right?
Even though it could 700, I think it was lower hundreds total when Chief O'Brien was talking about it in season 1. Because it can fit more.
Fit 4,000, right?
Yes. But it only had like maybe 300 or 400.
Well, there's a lot of fucking people in this scene being rushed around. He said 3 runabouts? Weren't Correct. There 4 runabouts? So did the one that crashed with Paka not get replaced, or were there only ever 3?
I think there's only ever 3, but the one that Opaka crashed did end up getting replaced. One of the names is different.
What?
They're all named after rivers. So,
right. How many people could fit on a runabout then? Because it's like memory
standing room only. I imagine you could probably cram quite a few people in there. It's got a whole living section in the back.
Sure, standing room only. It's gonna be a stinky runabout, but hey, that's what you got to do.
A little bit at warp, and then it's over. You know.
I love the scene between Kiko and O'Brien.
Yeah, like finally, finally, we're going to have the natural reaction of someone being asked to do something that sounds somewhat suicidal. Their wife does not like it. They have a child. Some real fucking point is made.
Very real scene. And I can tell you in the family life, like, maybe her claws should have been out a little longer. At the same time, also, like, she's got to be primed against this stuff. Like, all the shit the Enterprise went through that she was there for as well. Like, this is the life that they have chosen. And this posting was supposed to be him kind of taking a soft retirement and taking it easy. But it's not like it's me and my wife where we are not military at all. And you know, that's all coming out of the blue. Her sticking point on this is like, this isn't everybody trapped on the Enterprise and us all having to fight for our life. Like,
you can choose to go. You're choosing not to.
You were ordered to go. I don't know if she knows to that degree, but like, you know, what do you, there's nothing I can do. And she's like, oh, can't you, motherfucker?
Yeah, actually, specifically there is.
I'm sorry, Miles. You're staying here and maybe probably dying to back your boss, who every single night you come home from work and talk about how mean he is and what a fucking lunatic psychopath he is. And as you sit there holding our daughter, asking you to come with us, you're picking your crazy boss over your family. Why? We can't let the fucking Cardis take over.
Like a true Vietnam veteran. Like,
you want to let the Spoonheads win?
He's not having it, right? I love that this is like, you don't understand. This would mean that the people I hate the most in the world would have something nice. And darling, nothing's more important than me having to prevent that. You, the kid, get the fuck out of here. I need to make sure take a fucking toy away from these fools. That's how much I hate them.
This is the scene where I think it dawned on Kiko that, like, oops, I married a racist.
You know, we're living this enlightened federation, but I forgot that my husband made his bones collecting fucking spoonhead necklaces. Like,
yeah. The game plan here is that they've got this hard evidence that the circle is being supplied by the Cardassians, and that there is the expectation that once the circle takes over and purges Bajor and Deep Space Nine of all foreign presence, then that's going to open Bajor up for Cardassians to swoop back in, drop the hammer, reestablish occupancy, and now own the wormhole.
Right? And all of this is set up in a way that uses all the content from the first season. Everything we know actually from the TNG episodes we watched, our Hasbrat homework, going back all the way to that. We see through all of these different storytelling moments exactly what's happened here. Cardassia needed to get out of Bajor because they were under intense diplomatic pressure, intense military pressure because of the actual Bajoran resistance, making it more and more difficult to be there, to withdraw, to satisfy the intergalactic political moment, to ease their tensions with the Federation, and to create peace. They back off, but Bajor, understanding their weakness, brings the Federation in as a blocking tackle, thinking, we just need them here to run our little pilot station out there, and we'll get back on our feet. And what happens in Emissary? Uh-oh, that little pilot station and this little spot of space land that the Cardassians literally just gave up happens to have a stable highway to the other side of the fucking galaxy in it. Now this is the most valuable real estate in the world, but the same circumstances that were in place before are still there. The Cardassians are still the bad guys. They're still unrepentantly aggressive against the Federation, but they can't afford a war. They just signed a peace treaty. They can't go back into Bajor while the Federation is there, and the only way the Federation wouldn't be there is if Bajor was somehow convinced to get rid of them. But of course, you can't tell them to do that because everyone in Bajor fucking hates you. So what do? Well, you know them well enough that you know Space Nixon and his people out there have the purchase to potentially pull a coup off that would make Azeroth great again, right? Like get rid of all of the foreign people in on the planet and in your space so that you can run this yourself. Except, of course, that then prevents the casus belli that would occur if Cardassia came back in, because you've kicked the Federation out. And Space Nixon doesn't see that as what he's being manipulated into doing, because he just sees, I'm going to make my planet for my people, and our things for my people, and our space for our people, including the Celestial Temple, including Bajor itself, including Deep Space Nine. And so the setup is perfect as a subtle intergalactic political maneuver, and also the coup that Space Nixon is trying to pull off is very well handled. He has isolated the communication from Deep Space Nine. They can't talk to anybody. They have all the information. They have Lee Nalis, but they can't do anything with it. On the planet, he has created enough instability that he's going to be able to try and seize emergency control by actually getting the permission of the existing government to give it to him. He has sent his military, which is not entirely loyal to him, but sympathetic to him, off to deal with Deep Space Nine without communications, while he uses his militia/terrorist group to control Bajor and institute the political change he's looking for. By the time that's done, fait accompli at Deep Space Nine, we've kicked the Federation out. Now we have everything, and from Jaro's perspective, he can negotiate from there. Makes sense.
So the way to beat them is to expose Cardassian involvement, because that will completely undermine everything.
It's the one thing no one's going to be able to deal with, including Jaro himself, who hates Cardassians.
It will get the military to break off. The military, which up to this point has been ignoring the Circle's outbursts and allowing them to get away with their nonsense. But they can't clearly communicate this. The planetary communications are down and being blocked. They cannot sacrifice a runabout to push into Bajor proper, because they need to get these civilians the fuck out of there.
So they can't attack Bajor. They can't attack the Bajoran military. If you do that, they step over that line, that's going to create too much of a diplomatic incident for them to be able to continue to be there, right? They're there at their invitation. You don't attack the people who have invited you in as guests. So whatever they do to resist what's going on has to not necessarily be nonviolent, but has to be non-lethal. And getting into a space fight, that's not it, right? Sisko has identified that what he's got available to him is basically subterfuge and trickery and insurgency tactics, albeit on stun. So the Federation crew has a plan. Okay, we've got evidence. We need to get this down to the Chamber of Deputies. How do we do that? Can't use a runabout. Need to maintain some kind of plausible deniability, so we can't just intercede, because that would break the Prime Directive. We've already been told that by the Admiralty. So, hey, Kira, you got any hot terrorist tips? Got any stashed away old jalopies that you might be able to use?
It was Lee Nalis that came up with it, wasn't it?
It was. I believe that's right. It was Lee Nalis brought up that they had stashed them there 10 years ago. Or he just brought up the name of the colony, like Lunar 4 or Lunar 5.
Mm-hmm.
And Kira's like, yeah, that might be. And then Kira's the one that explains it, that there's these old shuttles that are there that haven't been turned on in a decade, but would provide the opportunity for Kira, who is really the person that has to get down there with it to maintain the plausible deniability, the opportunity to get this information about the Cardassian involvement to the Chamber of Ministers before they fall for the coup. The only person that could possibly help her fix this thing is, of course, Dax, as we mentioned, who happens to have the memory of a mechanic that lived hundreds of years ago and therefore is able to fix sub-impulse fighters. So it gets you those two to pair together. Like we already mentioned, they have great banter. They have a great adventure, actually. They have to go to a cave that's got a bunch of fucking spiders that look like they're like little Muppets that Kira used to eat, apparently.
I like the stakes on this as well, because we can't send a runabout directly to Bajor with you guys. I'm going to send you out to go get this fighter or shuttle, whatever the fuck it is, and we'll give you Dax to this bullshit outskirts place. And if you can't get this shuttle running, you might be dying there. Because if we fail, nobody is going to know where you're at, and that's going to be the end of your story. So there's really great, plausible stakes across the board on this. And it's a great look, again, for the two of them being willing to go out on this very realistic suicide mission on behalf of Bajor. And again, the knowledge that those fighters were there, like they did a really good treatment, as Star Trek always does for people who are about to die. But Lee Nollis looks great this entire episode. Yeah. Starting early on where there's, outbursts down at the docking ring because Quark has oversold these fucking shuttles. So did I mention, by the way, the same guy that was just like, hey, if you want to be a coward and go away, I will be totally cool with it. Death Row Sisko, who later encounters Quark, who has sold seats that didn't exist, puts the guy in a Vader grade chokehold.
Oh, he does.
In front of everybody. It's not like I'm going to grab you by your collar and be like, damn you, Quark. He's like thumb jammed into this guy's carotid artery.
He's got one on the neck and one on the lapel. Like, I want to make sure I have total control over you right now, Quark, because I need you to understand the level of violence I'm capable of. And then you've brought me right fucking to it. I might not kill I can't kill any of these Bajorans, okay? I can't kill them. I can kill your Ferengi ass any goddamn time I want to.
I am Death Row Sisko. I will dangle you out of this space hotel window until you sign over all your riches to me.
So, yeah, he gets very pissed and commits to a pretty extreme level of physical violence against a civilian, but understandably so. It does permit the classic Quark Odo moment of Quark telling Odo that he'd miss him, and Odo saying the same in his own way, and Quark taking a great deal of satisfaction out of that.
Quark, who's schlepping around this case of latinum the rest of the episode, he never really has an act of like a heroic act in the rest of this, which I appreciate. Like, they're not always out to like let him save the day or whatever, and he did that a fair amount in season 1. But I do like him being stuck miserable in several of these. And I would have to say, out of the entire episode, my favorite scene is everybody jammed in this service tunnel, fucking pissed that the food they brought, out of all the stuff the Replicator could have made, was Federation rations.
Combat rations. Which Miles O'Brien unironically enjoys. So the canon is now, the man is Irish. He does not know what good food tastes like. So what does he like? Oh, I like these crackers you can eat that give you all the nutrition you need for the entire day. Why?
Because it's not my wife's cooking. That's why.
Because I'm from a people who do not understand what good cuisine tastes like, and then I eat very good for me Japanese things that also do not taste good. So why not this? It gives me all of the Cardi murdering powers I need. Just take one of these and you're good to go.
Wonderful. I like everybody being pissed about it, especially Sisko, who flat outs him to everybody else on comms. I like Bashir saying that, his little prima donna ass engineered a candy bar that does a better job while he was in school. And I like O'Brien capitalizing on the permission he has to call a superior officer by the first name, which was something at first he was very adverse to the idea of calling Bashir Julian, but like cuts right back in with it. Also, I appreciate the fact that nobody's in a Federation uniform.
Yeah, everyone's in the civilian clothes to, once again, maintain their plausible deniability.
Very sad that new Jack Neelix's coat was not able to make an appearance.
Speaking of referring to officers by their first name, once again, Dax does this with essentially everybody, right? So, as you've noted, O'Brien only does it with Julian because Julian told him to, and this is the origin point of their friendship. But Dax cares so little about the rules. He just calls her boss's boss Benjamin, right? Like, she's third in command of the station. Like, Kira is actually her boss, brought up in this episode. She doesn't give a fuck about, being formal with Kira, and Kira doesn't really care for Dax to be formal with her. But it goes as far as to Sisko, like, oh, hey, Benjamin, I've got, you want to chat? You want to play some chess? Let's just hang out. So, like, the DS9 has a casual attitude with its chain of command in a way. People still understand where they are, and yes, sirs will come out of people's mouths when it's crunch time. But these people, they get to know each other in an intimate way that is not like what we saw in Voyager, Enterprise, or even TNG.
Well, that's what happens when you're not dealing with the best of the best of the best. It's a little more casual out there, and you can get away with at times murder. Not in this one, but in other cases.
There was an interesting note right in that scene after the rations when they pull their first little caper, and O'Brien discusses sending Lee Nallis down to where Bashir is to run the show from that end of the station. And it brings you back to the Lee Nallis plot of like, no, actually he's not a terrorist mastermind. you can't expect him to go out there and run an insurgency. He's good at like shooting at stuff when directed, but he's not a small unit's genius, shall we say. Julian, as a doctor, might be in a better position.
He does good though, and
Julian does a great job.
No, Lee Nallis. Like my impression of Lee Nallis is that he is a good soldier. He's a good soldier who follows orders. He's a good soldier who gets the job done. And even though his moment of glory was really kind of shameful because he shot that guy in his underwear or whatever, at this point he's realized he's in it for the long haul. Like I was saying before, Quark oversold these runabouts, and Sisko's trying to get people under control, and Lee Nallis has this excellent, like, I'm realizing my potential as a folklore hero, right? This is Warcraft 3. I'm the hero unit that has come in to get the peasants under control. Nobody's really good with the phaser fire, though. I want to jump back when Kira and Dax are on planet Dusty Caves to get those fighters, and they see the Muppet spider.
Yes, the Muppet spider.
Fun lore there that Trill are incredibly susceptible to insect bites. That's something about the bonding process between the Trill and the host. The symbiote and the host. That insect venom just is a bad time. That's great lore, and again, just really them people at some point between season 1 and season 2 are like, this character's a fucking mess.
Yeah,
can we just spend a day and just talk about like making her not suck, please?
Who's she supposed to be? What should she be like? Right now, she's just a robot.
What if she hates bugs? Why would she hate bugs? It melts her insides. Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Right, makes her fear more rational. I like it. So after they get through the Muppet, they get to the ship. They have the banter. They get it working. They start getting shot at by the Bajoran pilots that are defending Bajor, but of course manage to crash land their craft close enough to where Vedic Bareil is, that they are eventually rescued by him and brought back to health so they can finish their operation, which will include them impersonating Vedics so they can sneak their way into the government building, because apparently religious people are the only ones allowed to be out and not getting harassed.
Sure, why not?
So they get in, that plot wraps up exactly the way you would expect. They do succeed in delivering the incriminating information. And there's one key thing that happens in that scene that is particularly worth talking about. This is the least amount of Frank Langella in it. It's a shame we'll not see him again, but Minister Jarrow is excellent throughout. he solidifies his relationship with Wynn, and to say, in exchange for you becoming Kai, I need you to continue to support me through this meeting where I'm going to become fully empowered. And the moment that Kira shows up with fucking dirt that shows that this shit came from the Cardassians, and now like all of Bajor is going to turn on Jaro once this information gets out, she turns on him first. Like she's the one that actually prevents the coup from moving forward in the end, because she is such a cold-hearted villain. She's like, this is now going to fail. I must immediately betray you to
distance
get
myself,
anything out of this.
And potentially, I'll be curious to see where it goes, but I'm assuming she becomes his primary persecutor and scores, popularity brownie points at his expense.
Of course.
So
you have to. It's the only move. He can't incriminate you without incriminating himself. She knows that. So he can just, opposing you in public is free, and you just have to take it. Because the path of least resistance for Jaro is to admit that he didn't know that those weapons came from the Cardassians, but that he is guilty of taking them, which is way better than him admitting, this was a coup from the start. I wasn't actually, trying to legitimately seize power. And by the way, Wynn is a secret asshole too. Like he ain't doing that. So she can just kind of step in and be like, aha, fuck you. I'm going to get something out of this.
Then you've got a single-serving bad guy who is the colonel under the general who has been sent to secure DS9. The general's function, all of this, is sympathetic to Sisko for reasons covered in the last one, that, Sisko dropped him info before making his ask about getting Kieran. So you've got some respect between the two of them. Being disappointed that it appeared that Sisko vacated, being competent enough to see all the telltale signs that this is a big trap and nonsense is coming. Colonel Dickhead tells Space Nixon, hey, yeah, everything's great, we won, before the general's like, no, we're walking into a big fucking trap right now.
Yeah, he's not a turbo dummy. He's like, this seems kind of scuffed, guys. Like, I think we might be in some trouble.
Actually, Frank, I believe we've stumbled onto the set of Home Alone, and I hope
none of us by paint cans real quick.
I hope that I do not open a door that is on fire and burn my hand off. At one of the cheeky, fun Home Alone moments. Also, I don't know if you caught that, Bashir keeps his phaser in his boot.
No, I've missed that. I missed that note.
He's like, when they're all pinned in there, because like O'Brien's like, oh, I love eating these fucking rations. Hey, you want me to go do Sissy Julian's job for me? He's like, no, we'll let him do it on himself. And he's like, all right, Julian, go get him. And he's like, they're all scrunched up in that tube. He's like, all right, cool. His phaser is tucked into his boot. It is tucked in handle first with the business end pointing up and the button to shoot the phaser facing outward. So like perceivably the boot could envelop the trigger and just shoot the fucking phaser up. I wouldn't keep a pistol tucked in my fucking shoe, let alone a stick with a murder button on it. I'm just saying. But one of the fun traps that gets left out that catches Colonel Dickhead is the sexy time room. They find out that Quark's world famous sex dungeons are active. They go in there. It's Starfleet leadership. They're like, we got you. And the door seals shut. And then the, program turns off. And Sisko goes, hey, now that I've caught you, here's the deal. Cardassians are supplying your weapons. Single serving Colonel Dickhead's like, I'm going to ignore that because I am especially evil and vicious for unknown reasons. And
single serving bad guy never needs to explain himself. Someone just has to be that dude, right?
I'm just here to kill Lee Nollis, one by hook or by crook, man. So whatever we got to do to get me to my ultimate bad guy ends. And he does not report up the chain what's going on there. So there's going to be needless nonsense from here out.
It is ultimately what gives the permission structure to the general to surrender, right? Like, the fact that he gets lied to makes it so that Krim can take a step back from the abyss and say, like, clearly I've been fucked with. I just need to take everyone and go home and probably end up losing my job because we were told something that's not true. And now I've got my own subordinate lying to me. It's perfect. It explains why, because you spent some time to explain why Krim would respond to something like that, because we know he's a man of deep character and that he respects Sisko specifically because he didn't try and blackmail him earlier when he could have. Yeah. That it helps the plot resolve. And that's actually the only part of this episode I don't like, is that this plot just kind of ends rather than reaching a full resolution. You know, Space Nixon gets caught out with the potential of the evidence, but the evidence is just merely going to be investigated, and then that goes off screen. You presume ultimately information starts to get out, and the provisional government realizes, oh, Jaro was trying to seize power. We don't need to see those details, but they don't even try to explain them even in the epilogue. Lee Nallis as a character, we just decide to end that too. Because single-serving bad guy's got to try and kill Sisko, and he's got to fucking jump in front like a Secret Service member. That's such a waste, man. That's the one thing where, like, I guess they made the decision that they wanted to do this concept with Shakar later, but I don't know why they decided, oh, we build this guy up. He's this avatar of the resistance. He's going to be this important political figure on Bajor later in the future. No, he's just dead. And we're going to run this fucking whole playback with somebody else later on.
Who?
Stupid. So this guy is essentially replaced by a different recurring character, I think, in season 3. Like, same idea, resistance leader, becomes politically important, all of that. Same shit. So I don't know why they kill him here. Like, it actually pissed me off when I watched, like, what, you could have kept him. He was great. Like, the actor was good. He had his real subtle way. He was, playing the character relative to, like, Kira being real big. He's much lower. He's much softer. It kind of plays into him maybe being more of a people person. He becomes a politician.
Him being
it's all
traumatized from being in a fucking torture camp.
Yeah. And instead they're like, yeah, throw all that in the garbage. Fuck it. We'll just do this again later.
I felt like I knew this guy was going to die as soon as they rolled him out. Like, once they replaced Kira with him, and knowing that the farmer from the surface of Fracking Moon never popped back up, like, it's tipped me off that some of these people who seem like they've got real strong reoccurring energy vibe might not be reoccurring, that this guy was going to have this tragic end.
It just seemed so unnecessary, since they had an easy out for him to go back to the surface of Bajor to serve as a political leader, specifically because this happens. Like, the plot resolved itself without his death. Like, it's just completely unnecessary.
I didn't hate it, because ultimately it is good angst for Kira.
Oh, sure.
There is blood on the carpet. What's the last
this
time
all
we
came
saw
at a
someone?
Cost. It's important to have that. Sure.
What's the last time we saw someone jump in front of a blast? Oh, it was Shran's girlfriend.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's why this feels familiar, and I didn't like it when they did with that either. But,
we did like that they head faked you that if she was going to die or not, like that.
I
think it was going to be okay, and then it wasn't.
What they wanted to do, and they made the decision that they were going to have Shran take a hard left because get crazy about his girlfriend. They could have made his death better if, as he laid there dying, why did you do that? Or a moment for him to say, like, come out and, like, hardcore true believe, especially in front of Kira, emissary, the prophets have placed the future of the planet in you, emissary, and basically, me as a war hero, my life is worth less than yours as the emissary. And I've been chill about this, but I am a religious dude and you are super fucking important. And I will gladly lay my life down on yours. And I am dying because the faith demands it. And that's really how I think they could have knocked his death out of the park, is it to be like this hard punch into Sisko's gut, like, oh fuck, this is real.
Yeah, like I'm as important, the most important political figure, one of the most storied resistance leaders that this planet ever had, laid down his life for mine and told me that my life was more important than his.
Even though we've only known each other for like fucking 2 weeks.
Right.
And again, Kira or whoever else to see it and to really cement with the Bajorans present that Sisko is the real deal and, don't fuck with this guy.
And the implication of everything you're saying is there because that is what happens. That is the act that occurs. Lee Alice dies for the sake of the emissary. But they just
wanted him to say it.
Yeah, they didn't harvest any of this rich potential crop, right? They just kind of left it there.
And then someone's like, "Ooh, the unachieved potential. I like the taste of that. What if we make a whole TV show about failing to capitalize on our potential?" As a 3-parter, what was your thoughts on this?
Part 1 felt a little disconnected from 2 and 3. Part 1 felt like it was about Lee Alice. Part 2 and 3 felt like it was about the coup. I think that they had enough material for 2.5 episodes, and they made it 3. I don't think that makes any of it bad. In fact, I think it's quite good. But this one in particular is the worst because it doesn't quite know how to resolve itself effectively. I think killing Lee Alice is a huge mistake that they should have kept him around. And I think they realized that mistake later on, which is why they essentially create another character that's exactly like this. I think that wrapping the coup plot up the way they did, where Jaro just goes off screen and that's the end of it, is unsatisfying. I feel like, especially because we know the actor is capable of it, you could have had some pathos where he realizes, I fucked up. I have become the thing that I did not want to be, and take responsibility for it or react to it in any way. He just doesn't. He just kind of goes, I'll investigate that. All right, we're out of here. I'm going to leave with my person. That's it. That's the end of that. So I think it all holds it back from being truly great. But the ambition of it just bleeds off the screen. It was a lot of fun to revisit and think about everything that's in this and how much different it was from season 1 in terms of overall quality level up and down the board. So
as a 3-parter, I loved it. I thought that the pacing was great across the board. I thought they touch on a lot of different stuff. I think that, again, the blend of action to politics and small scale scenes, the friendship building, the humor, like, this is really a great example of Star Trek doing it well across the board, and to be ushered into a season with this is a phenomenal choice for someone who has the luxury of watching this at my leisure by hitting play on a video on demand service. I don't know how great it would have worked out in practice over the air, but I certainly appreciate it here. And again, just a lot of not rules, but them doing things that Enterprise and Voyager would have never done and doing it phenomenally. Killing Lee Alice, silly, and I'm sure I'll get more mad about it once I see whoever his replacement is. But the guy kind of had, created to die written all over him the entire time. I don't know. Good stuff, man. And from here, we're going to be going into episode 4, invasive procedures. Les Landau direction. A desperate Trill tries to steal the Dax symbiote.
There's a familiar face in this one, Peter. Very familiar, in fact. And I can't wait until you find him. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you anything. Just keep your eyes open.
Oh, it's going to be the jump to conclusion smack guy, isn't it?
Of course. And this time he's French.
Oh, good.
We'll see you all on Major Please next week.